after 12 straight days of severe weather.
You can see this unbelievable scene.
I could see the storm coming. It looked very dangerous.
You just feel the air pressure change. You know it's coming.
It is definitely rain wrapped. This is the most dangerous kind, of course.
Mother Nature sets her sights on the metro.
You need to be in your tornado shelter immediately. Tornado on the ground.
Power flashes. Oh, it's going through Linwood right now.
I saw my bedroom just leave.
Now communities on both sides of the state line are surveying the damage.
I don't have a home right now.
And sharing their stories.
Physically, mentally, we're struggling.
Of surviving the storm. Good evening, I'm Laura Moritz, coming live to you from Leavenworth County. Nobody died in last night's tornado. Our Chris Katz is live in Clay County, and our crews are stretched across 5 counties and in 2 states, bringing you live coverage. Now, the largest scope of the damage was here in Linwood, Kansas, and this is the site of a greenhouse that used to stand here. The power of this tornado, which the National Weather Service has determined was an EF4 in this area, took vans, huge vans like this, and just tossed them around like toys. Can you imagine if someone was in this van at the time of the storm? Nobody was in there. This storm, this tornado was on the ground for 30 miles. And through all of this, and the destruction just goes on for miles and miles and miles, all lives were spared. Our Kelly Eckerman is in another part of Linwood tonight, and she's with a family that rode out the storm, and they lived to tell about it. Kelly?
The only reason they were safe is they got in their storm shelter, which is underneath the front porch. And we should take you over there because there's some concrete walls that kept them safe and protected. And there's a steel door. He, his wife, as well as their cat and dog were underneath this front porch. And you can see into their front home. The beams are all exposed. The can lighting is still there. Wires are all hanging down, the back glass is all broken out, and posts from their balustrades going downstairs are completely gone. Sheetrock is on the floor.
Carl Junction, Golden City, Jefferson City.
That storm picked me up and slammed me down like I was nothing but a soda can.
Towns struck by catastrophic tornadoes overnight.
This is where we used to have a balcony. It is now on my mom's car.
I had to get my son secured inside the bathtub. That's how bad it was.
What was going through your mind?
I thought we were dead.
KMBC 9 crews on the scene getting a better look at the magnitude of the storm. Right now, a look at Missouri's capital city, where many buildings have been torn apart. This happened during an overnight outbreak of severe weather across the state. At least 3 people are dead, dozens more injured. Good evening, everybody. I'm Laura Moritz.
And I'm Stephen Albritton. Preliminary reports say the tornado that hit Jefferson City was an EF3 with wind speeds reaching 160 miles per hour. Take a look at this video where the storm destroyed dozens of cars at the Riley Chevrolet car dealership. Some vehicles were tossed 100 yards. That's the length of a football field. Our crews have been surveying the damage all afternoon. We begin with KMBC 9's Chris Katz. Chris, that cleanup is well underway, but there is a long way to go.
Boy, this sure is. Stephen, Laura, good evening from Jefferson City. We're in a neighborhood not all that far from Lincoln University. We have some new video from NewsChopper 9 that we want to share with you in just a moment, but it's been an awfully long day in so many neighborhoods here in Jefferson City.
A mass killing in Kansas City, Kansas.
It's a sad day for all of us.
9 people shot at a bar, 4 killed.
They came inside the bar, then started shooting.
We just want to know why.
No arrests as a community looks for answers.
He was asked to leave again, and that's why he came back and did this.
The latest on the shooting, the victims and the survivors left to tell their stories. And now to those 9 people shot at a packed Kansas City, Kansas bar.
It happened just after 1 in the morning at Tequila KC. Police are looking for 2 suspects, and they just released these pictures of those 2 men from inside the bar before the shooting happened. William Joy will have more on the search for them in just a moment.
And we have team coverage out of KCK tonight, starting with KMBC 9's Matt Fleener. He's live at the bar at 10th and Central. Matt, it is impossible to imagine the kind of grief and sadness the family and friends of those victims are feeling tonight.
Haley, it's been a very long day for so many people here in Kansas City, Kansas. In fact, here at the back of the bar, there's actually a couple of candles that have been set up in preparation for a vigil coming up here at 7 o'clock tonight. A lot of people just trying to make sense of what happened.
It's the worst news to ever hear. 4 people are dead, 5 others shot. Family and friends outside the Tequila KC bar left to wonder why.
My best friend's just really in shock right now, and she's not doing well.
Nearly 40 people have been murdered in Kansas City since January, putting this year on pace to be the deadliest in the last 5. The victims are getting younger, almost half less than 25. And for each person killed, there is a family broken and a future lost. As a city, we shake our heads each time we hear of another senseless killing. Someone should do something, many of us often say. The truth is, there are people doing something, lots of them. Today, KMBC 9 is committing to tell you those stories. As part of our KMBC 9 project community, we will highlight the efforts to change the course of Kansas City. Part of our coverage will look at drugs and guns and other challenges faced by police. But we'll also show you how everyday citizens are taking on things like poverty, literacy, and other forces driving the cycle of violence. These are our community champions, trying to turn the cycle of death and violence into a cycle of success. They are the hope we all need. They deserve our attention and maybe your help. For KMBC and KCWE, I'm Sarah Smith.
The next mayor of Kansas City, Missouri.
People want to know what actually is going on in the city.
How are you doing, man?
Infrastructure problems.
What about fixing up somebody's house down the street?
Your first candidate's ever knocked on my door.
Results are rolling in. You haven't seen them yet. Oh, man, we are close.
I love Kansas City.
Chronicle, July 30th at 9 on KMBC 9.
How you doing, brother? Man, these TV people.
Oh, no, you good? We got about 2 minutes.
We got a chance to learn a little bit more about Mr. Quinton Lucas.
It feels kind of good this last week because you get to stop fundraising and you get to actually do the stuff that's cool.
What's the game plan the next 7 days for you?
Game plan the next 7 days is to work our tails off. We have always been the underdogs in this race. I think we're still the underdogs today.
So you want the bad news or the worst news?
Start with the bad news.
Got a call from Heather Hall, who's endorsing Jolie.
No, what?
Also got a message from Alicia. That's the not as bad news. And she's like, hey, we need to talk later.
Is she calling you right now?
What's that?
Is she calling you right now?
Is she? I can't hear anything because I'm deaf. Yep. It's Quinton Lucas. Hey, would you be interested in a formal endorsement? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, bye-bye. Oh, man, I hate politics.
That's good.
I hate politics.
I'm so glad you made the ask. I was going to be like, you better make that ask. Good. Heather Hall doesn't mean anything next to that.
All right. What tension? God, that really did balance well. I needed that in my day.
The Osborne Wind Project is 97 wind turbines.
There's definitely a demand for green energy.
No industry you'll ever bring into this county that'll give us that kind of tax money.
We've had a lot of additional revenue come into our school district.
These people are nothing but a bunch of liars.
The land, I see beauty. The towers, I see hell.
It's pitting neighbors against neighbors.
There is a story here that needs to be told.
If you know the cost, I feel like I'm dying.
It's quiet, it's safe.
Kids aren't being harmed and they're really being helped.
Clean energy is worth fighting for.
It's the Wild West.
I really don't care who I make mad.
It will not heal in a generation.
Everybody's going to have a different opinion.
There's no winners in this.
Who are you going to believe? Who do you want to believe?
I'm Matt Fleener. We're in the middle of the Osborne Wind Project. 97 wind turbines, just like this one here in DeKalb County, Missouri. An hour north of downtown Kansas City. The project currently provides power to about 60,000 customers for Evergy. And more of these 500-foot wind turbines are going up in small towns across Missouri and Kansas and around the world. For some living near the Osborne Wind Project, the turbines have brought huge benefits, but they've also caused huge divides that threaten to tear these long-standing communities apart.
I think that those scars are deep, they're permanent.
In DeKalb County, Missouri, wind power has been around for generations. But the founders of this area may never have imagined how much power the wind would hold over this community for generations to come.
Built this new house, and all of a sudden, we got sucker punched.
Leslie and Glenn Dyer built this house on their family homestead in 2012. They never expected to spend every day staring at 31 wind turbines.
One here and one up here.
Just 7 years later.
And then we're reminded every day how much we've been betrayed.
KMBC 9 Investigates keeps getting complaints about T.E.H apartment properties across the Kansas City metro.
But that's just warm air. There's no air. It's just hot air blowing. And this reads 87.
87 degrees.
And I don't think we have to live like this.
With chronic breathing problems.
And I had to sleep with my fan on.
Hadia Muhammad has kept fans going for months since her air conditioning at the Nob Hill Apartments is broken.
Since April, and then I went and made a complaint with Section 8 in May.
This South Kansas City complex gets more than $56,000 per month from taxpayers to pay for low-income housing.
The water leaks and stuff, I don't know what's going on.
But residents here wonder where that money's going. We inspected the air conditioning units. The property manager asked us to leave. What's happening with it? Why hasn't it been fixed?
What kind of journalist are you?
He's coming to get the facts. I mean, my God.
The property manager telling us later off camera it's the owner's responsibility to fix the issues. But that owner with T.E.H Realty hasn't returned our calls or emails.
Please be ready. All the bugs are going to run out.
Anything to deal with roaches, too. But she says apartment managers at the Welcome Home Estates aren't listening.
Would you live here? Would you have your family live in this predicament? Would you have your daughter, your son, your whoever? Would you have them live here?
I've cleaned out units that were so infested with rats and mice that I actually had to duct tape my pants shut.
Creech says city leaders need to see what's happening here. Ragavir agrees.
No one in city government has heard about T.E.H Realty until you all started reporting on them and until our eviction data was made public, and that's a problem.
With problems we continue to point out. Can you open the door for us? The majority of that money pays for 84 residents like Erica Smith to live at Nob Hill.
Ooh. Oh, God. What's that smell like to you?
It's dead person.
They're supposed to give a safe place to live. You can't even live in there.
No, I cannot.
But Smith now has a housing voucher to move. After the Kansas City Health Department vacated her apartment last week. Smith says T.E.H management, controlled by Shlomo Lerner.
Why won't you answer our question?
And investor Michael Fine. Hey, I'm Matt Fleener from KMBC. Are you one of the owners of T.E.H Realty? Never fixed a major flood.
Any federally funded government program that's still allowing people to reside here or move in here, I feel like the funding should be taken.
And we're going to hold the landlords accountable for that.
Edwin Lowndes with the Kansas City Housing Authority is now taking action. He says more than 50 complaints have come into the Housing Authority after KMBC 9 started reporting on various T.E.H properties this summer.
It's just hot air blowing.
Do the managers of T.E.H have any sort of response to this report?
So they actually did meet with the Housing Authority here in Kansas City, Missouri this week to hear their concerns. We haven't been able to get a straight answer from them on if they plan to take immediate action to fix these problems, but there are some big questions about these properties. We understand from an Israeli publication that there are major investors in T.E.H, including mayors of big cities, big financiers, and government officials in Israel. That publication says those investors are actually pretty nervous about losing money in these apartments. We're working to confirm those details, but the story is definitely far from over.
This is a KMBC KCWE editorial with President and General Manager Sarah Smith.
Early in the morning of June 28, 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay bar in the West Village of New York City. Threatened with arrest for being different, the patrons of Stonewall had had enough. Angry and frightened, they stood their ground, fighting back against unfair laws and oppression. It was a turning point for gay rights. This month at Pride events around the country, people gay and straight celebrate the progress in Stonewall, but there is still more to do. The fight against discrimination didn't end with marriage equality. LGBTQ youth commit suicide at a higher rate than their straight peers. Transgender women are being murdered at an alarming rate. HIV/AIDS remains a serious public health threat, and in many states, including Kansas and Missouri, people can be fired for being gay or transgender. Pride is a celebration of progress. It's also a reminder that progress remains fragile, and there is still more work to be done.
Means that the dominant
Fred Phelps, known for his fire and brimstone sermons at Westboro Baptist Church,
of illicit sex
was Megan Phelps Roper's grandfather. Megan grew up on the grounds of Westboro Baptist Church in Topeka, Kansas. A part of her childhood was loving.
We swam in the pool out back and, went running and, all kinds of things. Like there was that normal side.
But this family, Megan says, was religiously rigid, exclusive, and at times physically abusive.
Gramps' policy was to beat first, ask questions later.
That's the first piece of solid evidence that you have that the young man is currently in hell.
Family outings included carrying signs that insulted many.
Have you got a wife, ugly? I seen you with some ugly woman.
Inciting heated arguments.
One enemy. Hey!
Creating a lot of anger.
What the heck's wrong with me?
Megan started carrying those signs at age 5.
We thought it was our duty to go and warn people of the consequences of their sins, and I understood that to be the definition of loving our neighbor.
Evil city!
We always would say, the sign doesn't say anything about our personal hatred as human beings. Like, it's talking about the hatred of God.
As Megan matured, those infamous arguments on the streets carried out on social media, and it was then, in tweets and posts from all over the world, continuing the debate, that Megan's steadfast, hardcore belief system cracked.
The way that it came into my mind was, oh my God, what if we're just people? What if this isn't the place led by God himself? And that realization was staggering and completely destabilizing.
In 2012, Megan and her younger sister Grace left everything familiar, her family and the church, and started a new life.
To repair the world.
One that she says fosters curiosity in all people of all faiths. And her most startling revelation.
I don't really believe in God anymore, but there are, I just feel like, I don't like to say I'm not a believer because I still feel like a believer in a lot of things. Primarily, hope and grace and the power of human connection.
But not God.
No.
This is when it all sank in. Strapped into Blue Angels number 7 with one of the best pilots in the world.
You'll get to see here in a few minutes my window view there, or my office view, and it's pretty amazing to get to experience it and get to show other people what it is we do in the Navy and Marine Corps.
After the canopy closed on the FA-18 Hornet, Lieutenant Kerry Rickoff was ready to show me the precision and the power of the Blue Angels.
We get to represent these 800,000 sailors and Marines and show what the teamwork of the Navy and Marine Corps can actually do.
Climb maintain 10,000, clear to go.
You don't just go up in a plane like this, you go straight up.
All right, ready, hit it.
To say this is the ride of a lifetime is an understatement.
And here comes the other unrolls.
This is more like the ride of 10 lifetimes. High in the skies over Whiteman Air Force Base, Lieutenant Rickoff took me through some of the maneuvers we'll all see from the ground this weekend. After those moves, a big decision.
I can either bring you in for a straight in like you're used to landing, or we can come in land like a Blue Angel.
I'll let you decide which one I chose. Solid ground.
All right. Whew. Welcome back.
My head still spinning, but unbelievably grateful for this incredible experience. In Kansas City, Matt Evans, KMBC 9. Holy cow. Yeah. Whew. Can't really stand up straight, but...
I'm Secret Santa. You're going to have fun today.
Whatever you believe,
Find your target.
the holiday season is really all about hope.
Well, let's go see what we got. The greatest gift you can give somebody is a gift of happiness. You ever heard of Secret Santa?
No. That's why this anonymous businessman named Secret Santa came to town this week.
Merry Christmas!
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
His little helpers on this sleigh ride are KCPD and the Kansas Highway Patrol. At each stop, delivering $100 bills and smiles.
Oh, you joking, man? No. For real?
The tradition started with a local legend named Larry Stewart.
Oh my goodness, that is a blessing. I didn't have the $2.
Of all the cities, Kansas City is very special because that's where this all began.
When Stewart passed away 12 years ago, he made the new Santa promise to take over.
It's a Secret Santa right there.
Both have been motivated by the idea random acts of kindness are contagious.
You have children?
6.
6 of them?
Yep.
Will that help Christmas a little bit?
It will.
I came with $4. You came with $4?
This father at the Greyhound station was headed to pick up his son in North Dakota.
Here's $200. You do something, make this a special Christmas for him.
After 4 years in foster care. At a thrift store on Troost, there was a man who had been just outside, considering taking his own life.
Yeah, hang on to that for me, will you? That's $100. You're a good man.
It's not the money that makes people reach out for hugs or break down and cry.
Thank you so much. I just wanted that.
It's all because what Secret Santa is really handing out is hope.
2020 is going to be a great year for you.
William Joy, KMBC 9 News.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
I'll see you. God bless you now. Thank you.
Bow your heads and pray for God's blessing.
After all these years,
May He rest in peace. Hear our prayer.
they never knew.
For we are dust.
In fact, nobody knew the answer to this question.
And into dust we shall return.
Where was Uncle Nick?
In this day and age, we're always looking for heroes. He is a hero.
Kathy Wolf and Rosemary Byard always knew their Uncle Nick, PFC Nicholas Goimeratz, was a hero, but they didn't know where he was. And for 75 years, the Marine Corps didn't know either. In July 1943, he was part of a Marine battalion in a firefight with the Japanese on the Solomon Islands. He crawled through heavy fire to save a fellow Marine before he was wounded and died.
He gave his life. I mean, he gave the ultimate sacrifice.
The information that we have now in this book, I mean, this is invaluable.
Every letter sent, every update the family got can be found in this book the military gave to his family. In here is where his family learned the remains of 21 Marines were found on that battlefield in '43, but nobody knew who they were. They were buried in a national cemetery in Hawaii. Without a name, his remains were known as X6. His mother would pass away in the 60s, knowing how he died, but never knowing where he was.
Being a mother and not knowing where my son was.
Can't imagine.
Right.
Can't imagine.
Exactly.
Then last September, one of his nieces got a call. Uncle Nick had been found.
And they said they identified him through his dental records and his ancestry.
It all finally came together. It just blows my mind. Oh, wow, look at that. More than I ever thought possible.
Last month at KCI, Uncle Nick finally came home for the last time.
It's been 75 years.
Welcome home, Uncle Nick.
It reaffirms my belief in God, family, and country.
And a few days later, Uncle Nick was laid to rest.
Because God has chosen to call our brother Nicholas from this life to himself, we commit his body to the earth.
It's just been so moving that they recognize the importance of what he did. You can't ask for anything more. You just can't.
Rest easy, Marine. We now have the watch.
For Uncle Nick's family, it's the moment they always wanted, and now want for every other family. Still waiting.
Thank you so much.
Billions of dollars and still counting. That's how much the historic floods have cost people living along the Missouri River this year.
And Laura, that number is still growing. Hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland remain underwater today. Tonight, we begin an exclusive look at the river, the rise, and the recovery, starting with KMBC 9's Matt Evans and what led to this year's devastating floods.
In northern Missouri, flooding has led to evacuations in some areas. The Holt County Sheriff's Office put out the alert today.
March 15th, 2019, the day the floods came.
For people who live near Big Lake, as of 9 a.m. this morning, water was topping the levee there.
For some, like Holt County Commissioner Tom Bullock.
And I'm going to take you up there and show you the north end of that road right now.
They're still waiting for the day the water recedes.
It just makes me sick every time I see it.
Bullock's house, just like all of these homes around Big Lake, has been underwater for almost 8 months.
Everybody's lives have been affected, turned upside down.
His story.
Our home is still out there.
This is something that could run me out of business.
It's just the worst feeling ever.
Like the story of so many others across the Midwest whose lives have been destroyed by flooding.
Pretty much devastated. We've already lost half our house.
This is the third time I've had to leave. We need a break. We can't keep living like this.
The fuse for these historic floods.
And then we had the bomb cyclone.
A powerful system in March that dumped feet of snow and rain on frozen ground to our north. That water, too much for the Spencer Dam on the Niobrara River in Nebraska.
Looked like the end of the world was coming.
It broke, sending an 11-foot wall of water downstream, devastating everything in its path and pouring into the mouth of the Missouri, busting levees and flooding bottoms all the way to St. Louis. Since then, record rainfall in the basin has kept waters high all year long. And with no levee protection like places in Holt County, there's no way to hold it back.
And the Corps already told us nothing's going to get fixed here till next year.
For years now, there have been questions about how the Army Corps of Engineers manages the river.
The Corps needs to make this right somehow.
That's what those structures are for, is flood control.
And those impacted want answers from the Corps. Could they have done anything to stop the devastating floods of 2019?
And it worked well for a long time, but it's not working anymore.
And it is a story that just keeps unfolding. Tomorrow at 6, Matt is going to follow the river upstream to South Dakota to the Corps of Engineers directly in charge of managing the Missouri River.
And the reason many blame them for the floods and what they say needs to be done to stop a similar situation from happening again. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and to bring attention to what has become an epidemic in our country, local pop singer Mackenzie Nicole has written an album chronicling her own mental breakdown and what ultimately ended in a life-changing breakthrough.
You're acting like you know me when you really don't know.
On the surface, Mackenzie Nicole had it all.
Waiting for the next fight.
Recently graduating from St. John Lalonde Catholic High School in Blue Springs, she is the first pop singer signed to the label her father co-founded, Strange Music. But off the stage, something was wrong.
The first time I remember contemplating suicide, I was 6 years old. I'm 19 now. I didn't know that there was a better for so long because I lived my entire life essentially in a less than desirable state. I just figured that eventually I would go on like that until I eventually took my own life.
I feel looking into my soul.
The worst period of my life in terms of my mental health was this time last year for about 6 months. I went through a very severe mental breakdown.
If I don't leave now.
Her struggle eventually leading to a bipolar diagnosis and relief to finally know what was wrong.
Keep that second one and let's do it one more time and I think it'll be good. There's this issue with mental illness where it feels like this unwrestlable, unidentifiable monster that you're trying to like take stabs at or hit, and it's like this dreamlike quality of never being able to land a punch at it, you know?
One of Mackenzie's friends,
sorry, it's hard for me to talk about,
was also struggling.
Like, he was just the sweetest young boy, and as he got older, he also struggled with depression and mental illness.
Pearson took his own life earlier this year. He was just 14 years old.
And I knew immediately that I had an obligation to talk about what I'd went through.
Who am I to say?
My next album is entirely about stages of mental health, and it's autobiographical after what I went through last year. And that's been such a wonderful therapy, music has been.
Her introspective album, titled Mystic,
maybe I should do like because this is like a middle range one that I just tracked,
is set to come out later this year. Every song will include a short film documenting her breakdown.
But I found at the end of it, instead of feeling this weird, like kind of dirty feeling of saying too much, I felt finally clean. Yeah, I like that.
Mackenzie hopes one day people will talk about mental illness like you would a broken leg without the stigma. The month of May has long been recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month since 1949, but it seems we've only begun to talk about this 70 years later. I have posted many different resources on my KMBC Facebook page if you or someone you know needs help.